All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Carrie Waible. Carrie, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Kevin. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I am. And I want to start off by giving a shout out to your PR gal, Rebecca Rakowitz, because I will tell you what, Carrie, Rebecca is, man, she's world class at doing what she does too. She is
Yes.
amazing at talking you up. She reached out to me on the Quoted platform and was telling me about you. And after I read what she wrote about you, I'm just like, heck yeah, I want to have a conversation with Carrie and get to know her. And so we had that conversation, got to know each other a little bit, and I got to hear a little bit of your story. And I'm like, oh man, we definitely got to do an interview for the podcast. And so here we are. And I'm so looking forward to this.
Same, same. It's so fun to meet you and the way that those connections happen is hilarious. But Rebecca is amazing. And thanks for
Yeah.
shouting her out. She really she's a reporter. That's how she
Okay.
started in her career. And so she has this natural curiosity about her. And she's the one who said to me, Carrie, your origin story is kind of interesting. It needs to make its way into your bio, and we need to start using it. And I was like, I never even thought about that. Thank you. So
Yeah.
I think that's what she pitched you on originally. So
She
yeah,
did. She did. And I'm not gonna. We'll save that for a little bit later in our conversation.
whenever you
But
want, I'm here
yeah.
for you.
So, well, let me just start. Well, I'll just start with a really simple, easy question to get our conversation rolling. Carrie, what do you do, and who do you serve?
So I run a full service marketing and production company,
Okay.
and we serve companies of all kinds. So we started largely by serving nonprofit organizations and doing these big star-studded celebrity galas and doing what's kind of a traditional New York PR experience, which means
Okay.
you end up working with hospitality and fashion and entertainment. Like that's the world that New York produces.
Yep.
And so those are the types of events and that we produced. And then we served these incredible nonprofit organizations in the early years. And I'm talking about when I started my company, it was 2004, its
Okay.
first iteration. And then its second iteration was in 2008. So call it from 2004 all the way through maybe 2012.
Okay.
It was largely an event production company. We were churning and burning 12 huge events a year, all kinds of other small events, doing PR for brands like Nobu restaurants and many others. I mean, there's tons, but basically we were churning, right? There was a team that was just like, this is what we do. And I recognized, especially on the event side of the equation, two things happened. One, a dear, dear team member said to me, Carrie, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be this. I don't want this to be my life because it
Ah.
was so busy and it was so many hours and it was so much on all the time. You were on all the time. There was no off button. And that's kind of what the work demanded. And I thrived in that situation.
Okay.
And while she was so incredible at her job, I can't even tell you, she was like, that's not what I want my life to look like. Like, this is a great career, but it's not for my life. So I've got that coming in. I just got the chills. And at the same time, I start looking at all of the other people who are running event production companies that are successful in New York. And I was maybe 35 or something like that at the time, 30, 32, 35, somewhere in that zone. And so I'll call it I'm 35. I'm looking at people who are 45, 55, 70 years old doing what I'm doing. And it was the same exact business. It didn't
Wow.
change. It's changing around you. You know, the events were changing, the people we were putting on stage were changing, the way it was produced was changing, but the job wasn't changing. And
Mhm.
I looked at it and I thought, I don't think I can do that for this much longer. Like by 35, I started my company so young when I was 26. So by 35-ish, I had done a lot, and I had already worked at other companies. So I had all of these experiences in this particular event production world that were like, how could I do more or better or more exciting than this?
Yeah.
And it was, it was a little two seeds planted in my head. I didn't like say, I'm going to go make a big change right now. But as I look back on it, it was the start of change. So I
Okay.
started changing the company to be more about full service marketing and more about, content production. So at the same time, social media started and things started rising up there. So it all kind of naturally came together in the universe that I would spend my time and shift my business there.
Okay.
But I recalled, as we're going to talk about relationships, an old client who was a huge help to me, and just in the sense of like, let's go to lunch and talk about this when I started my business, so I didn't feel so alone in it.
Mhm.
And he said to me, Carrie, keep putting yourself in front of people and do a good job because no one ever wants to change who they're working with if they don't have to. So that was one big piece of advice. And then as it went down, he said to me, don't forget to lean into your PR talents because that's the thing that's going to carry you into your later years. But he was saying this to me when I was 26, 28, and I was like, but I'm sailing. I've got this huge event production business. But it came back to me then. And I thought, okay. So then I started shifting and listen, it's a lot of iterations of there's just a lot of iterations of everything, isn't there? Of ourselves, of our lives.
You
And when you're an
bet.
entrepreneur and you have this incredible, what I've now realized is a gift to have some control, some measure of control over your own business, future, days, whatever. When I realized that, I suddenly was like, oh, I can use the gift of this business that I've built, and that I've like completely done crazy, just whatever. A lot has gone on for me to build this business. But now I can say, oh, well, what can it do for me? How can the business meet me and how can I meet the business instead of me just being like, I have to do more for the business. I have to do more for the business. Because between youth and my natural makeup, that's all I was ever doing. I
Uh-huh.
was like, what else can I do for you? What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? It's like, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, yeah. We need to have some downtime too to just kind of recuperate and just rejuvenate ourselves so that when we are back at work, we're at our best and clients get us at our best too and stuff.
Exactly. And for me, rejuvenation and kind of downtime looks like a lot of different things. Like it just looks like being outdoors and
Okay.
moving. Because I said, I mean, unless I'm at an event and I'm running around or I'm directing a video series and I'm producing, like those days are the days I love the most. That's when
Uh-huh.
I feel the most like inside myself, the most present. But it's only one fraction of my days. Even though
Yeah.
it's a big piece of our business, it's one
Yeah.
fraction of my days. A lot of the other time I'm sitting at a desk.
Yeah.
And so my downtime is me moving, being outdoors, being with people I love, being in
Yeah.
nature. It doesn't mean like, oh my God, I'm going to crash. It used
Sure,
to.
you bet. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, for me too. I just love spending time with inspiring people.
Same.
And
Yes.
that is totally like I could just hang out for hours having conversations. And so
Same.
and
Yeah.
speaking of inspiring, so what inspires you most about the work that you get to do and the impact that you guys get to make, Carrie?
People,
People,
100%
okay.
people. Sorry
Yep.
to steal your answer, Kev, but it is. It's that same person who I guess I didn't realize is maybe so influential. His name's Charlie, who was my client who told me the great pieces of advice from earlier.
Okay.
One day we went out to lunch and he was like, where do you get all this energy? How many cups of coffee do you have every day? I said, I have one. And I get it from people. I get my energy from people.
Yeah.
And that's, and I feel so fortunate about it. I mean, we don't like, we're here on earth, right? And it's like, we don't know how long we're here. We don't know how long the other people around us are here. And to me, I want to live it up and I want to connect with people.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing those two things, then I just feel super amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, what is an example and you can name names if you want, although you don't have to. It's totally your
Yeah.
call. What's an example of a result that you guys have helped a client get that you're just incredibly proud of?
Oh gosh. Um, it's a hard question, Kev. There's so many. Gosh, I think if I look cumulatively at some of the things that we've done for clients, like let me tell you, we have clients that we've worked with for between 10 and now 20. I can't believe I'm saying that years.
That is
Same client.
awesome.
It's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to say, oh, there was this one thing
Sure.
because we've worked with them for so long. And a lot of it is long-term building. Um, a lot of it is shifts in their businesses, in the ways that they see things, in the way that they've done things. And so I don't know that there's one. I mean, it's not coming to me now. I'll tell you if it pops in later, but there's not one big win that it's like,
Sure.
oh, we made these people, $1 million or $1
Yeah.
billion, because that's not really how we measure
Mhm.
our success in the way that we feel about our work, nor in the actual KPIs and measurable objectives that we have.
Mhm.
The PR side of our business is about putting people on the map. So if I look at a client like Nobu, who we worked with through a huge growth phase in their business,
Yep.
it was a huge success to have them. They moved from their original location in Tribeca, which was like they started this little restaurant, Nobu in Tribeca, right? And it was just a little restaurant. It was not, it became a worldwide sensation. But they had to leave that restaurant right around their 20th anniversary because they were growing and they were globally expanding and they didn't want to lose the heart that went along with it.
Okay.
So that transition of moving them from what was, I think, a 190 seat restaurant to a 2 floor, gorgeous, redesigned, hundreds of seats restaurant without losing the heart, that rings to me as something that's important.
Yeah.
And
You
that's kind
bet.
of the way that we measure importance is on those terms.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, certainly we've helped nonprofits raise billions of dollars. We've, over the years, if I add it all up, we've put them on the map. We work with a really interesting client right now. It's a charter school network that spans it's a public charter school network that
Okay.
spans 5 different regions of the Northeast. And these kids talk about what inspires you. I spoke at their career day recently, just like because they were like, Carrie, will you do this? And one of the kids said to me, what inspires you to work with us, like with our school network? And I
Okay.
said,
Wow.
you do. It's you,
Wow.
you know? And so when I get to direct videos with those kids and those educators, I mean, to me, it's a huge success, drawing out of them what they are doing every day that they don't even realize. They
Yeah.
don't even think about how much success they have every day. And that's just, I mean, it's beauty. It's beauty emotion to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You know, if I'm right, I mean, really what you're talking about here and is it's impact. I mean, that's
Yes.
what you're talking about with Nobu. It was impact. And
Yes.
yes, did that lead to revenue? Absolutely. That led to more
Sure.
revenue doing that. But like you said, you didn't lose the heart of what it started with and stuff, even
Yeah.
though it expanded and it
Yeah.
got bigger and they could seat more people and all of that, it allowed them to make a bigger impact. And impact is what always inspires me too. And
Mhm.
its impact, is what leads to revenue. The bigger impact we make, the more revenue that gets created. That just organically happens. And that's
It's
what
true.
that's what you're talking about is
Yeah, and standing in yourself. That brings us back. If we're in a meeting, I'm going to talk to you about what's your brand and all of these things, but it is true. Whether we're people standing inside of ourselves or we are businesses standing inside our brand and knowing what we embody so that we can stay true to that as we go, as we grow and reach all of the goals that we want. I mean, that's a really important thing
yeah.
because you feel it if it's lost. You feel it if
Oh,
you're not in
totally.
a place. I went to speaking on the restaurant, track for a minute. My husband and I went to a restaurant on vacation and it was beautiful and the service was impeccable and the food was delicious and it had no soul. Zero. You
Mm,
could not feel that anyone cared about what they were doing there. It
wow.
just felt like we're in a scene, we're doing this. And
Yep.
like people feel that, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a walk a day example, but it's like the same as what you feel like in yourself. When
Yeah.
you're not living inside your gifts, when you're not like embodying yourself, you don't feel like you can actually make an impact. And you're
That's
probably not, being as true as you could be and doing as much as you could be.
yeah.
But I don't mean to sound preachy because that takes a while to learn and to be not even learn,
Yeah.
to be aware
Yeah.
of inside yourself.
Yeah. Totally. And I think a lot of it is, I mentioned my buddy Jesse before, and
Yeah.
12, it's been 13 years now since we met, but shortly after we met, he made this comment to me and he's like, Kevin, he said, I got nothing to hide and nothing to prove. And I was like, wow, what a cool place to come from. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to be able to come from there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now you do. I do come from there, and it's a really cool spot to come from when we're just like we love ourselves and we're okay with ourselves,
Yeah.
and we don't feel like, well, I need to show up this way if I'm going into this environment. I need to show up this way if I'm over here. We just get
Right.
to show up as us wherever we go.
Exactly. And I think people struggle with that in business a lot,
Totally,
because
they do.
they think they can't show up as themselves and still embody what they're supposed to give or do
Yeah,
for the client or for the pitch or for whatever. And the point is, you can. Like, it doesn't need to be like, I'm just going to be myself and, to heck with what happens here. It's not like that.
no,
It's like, go in and be inside yourself, and you can still strategically be in the room. You
that's
can
right.
still like give what they need from you.
Yes.
My grandfather used to say, and I don't know why I'm thinking of this right now, but he used to always say, listen before you talk.
Mhm.
And I find that to be a really important way to be in rooms and be yourself and be with the people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, okay, so now that we've got a little bit of context set here,
Yeah.
I want to shift gears just a little bit. I want to start talking
Okay.
about the relationship side of this. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
100% I have, and it has to be 100 people, but but I can break it down a little bit to what we want to talk about here today. So, the first person who I'm sitting here in New York in my office where I do amazing things and I'm so happy with what I do every single day. And the reason, if I trace it all the way back, is that when I graduated college, I was looking for a job in San Francisco or Boston.
Okay.
And I came to New York City to see some friends. They were like, Carrie, come up for the weekend. I said, great. And I got on the plane that morning, and it was just kind of there was like an energy on the plane of some sort. So much so that when I got into my seat, which was a middle seat, the man who was on the aisle and I connected immediately over just the weird energy that was going on.
Okay.
So we ended up talking. His name is Stan Heath. And we ended up talking just kind of a normal, plain conversation. He was like, oh, what do you do? The normal, especially a normal New York airplane conversation. I said, oh, I just graduated college. He said, what do you want to do? I said, oh, I want to work in branding and advertising. And he looked at me for a second and he said, what about PR? I said, oh, no, I don't want to do PR. I, I did internships in PR, and that's totally not me. And he said, I'm sorry to tell you, it's totally you. And my ex business partner, who we used to have a business together, is hiring an account executive in New York. Do you want to meet him while you're in New York? And I said, sure. So this was the year 2000, which means that my resume was printed in my bag and with me at all times, because that was
Okay.
before email kind of, became everything. And so I pulled my resume out and he said, great, I'll fax it to him and he'll give you a call. So I said, okay, great. Nice to meet you. I leave. I go about my weekend with my friends. I get a call, and it's from Tony, who was my first boss, his ex business partner, Stan's ex business partner. And he said, I'm in California pitching new business, but why don't you go into the office and meet the team? Stan was really impressed with you. I said, fine, great. I can do that this morning. So I did. And it was just kind of this like, what is going on right now? And there were little signs that this was the place that I was going to land if I look back on it. But I was
Okay.
just in this exciting experience moment, and I enjoyed it. And so I left. And of course, I followed up dutifully as I do. And Tony said, why don't you come back and work an event with us? Like, a lot of our PR business is event business.
Okay.
Why don't you come back and work an event with us? I need to see how you move. I need to interview you, but also I need to see how you move. So I said, great. Flew back to New York, and I went and did this crazy fashion industry event that, looking back on it, I'm like, why was I there and what was I doing? But it was interesting and fun. story for another day. So after that, we met and he offered me the job that day in the interview. And so I mean, so obviously Stan brought me there, and then Tony changed my life by doing that. But Tony was my mentor without me realizing it. I mean, I'm from Buffalo, New York. I didn't think New York City was for me. Again, I was looking in San Francisco and Boston. When I got here, I'd been here a few times, but when I got here, it was like my energetic match. And I can't even imagine that I thought I wasn't going to be here. Like, this is totally my spot. I've never left. I mean, I live in and around New York City, but I've never left. Like, New York is me and it is built for me. So thereon, started my first job, which led to my second job, which was in branding and advertising, what I thought I wanted to do just to make
Uh-huh.
sure. And about a year into that branding and advertising job, a client that had been a client at my first job where I did the PR and events, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't like it. It's not creative. Like, the creatives get to go and be creative and have fun. I was an account person, so I was just selling ideas, and sales
Okay.
is not my thing. Like, I can sell you an idea, but it's not where I feel the best. So I was like, I got to go back and do more events and PR. He said, why don't you start your own company? And I was like, what? I don't want to start my own company. And he said, why not? Anywhere you go, anyone is going to say to you or say to the company, great, can we have Carrie Waible on the business? Great. Can we have Carrie Waible's team? He's like, why are you going to go and work for some big company when really you're just always going to be the person that people turn to? And I was like, Thomas, what? It was this just mind-blowing thing that he said this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Within maybe a week, or it feels like it was a week. It could have been 2 months. But shortly after that conversation, the nonprofit that he worked for lost their development director. And they were about 6 weeks out from their biggest event of the year, where they raised $1.5 million. And this is 20 something years ago. So it was like a big fundraiser. It was every major cable media executive. So all like cable, which was now streaming and everything that we know. But then it was cable. I mean, cable was king. And every major CEO was there. They would bring in all their talent. It's like when Jon Stewart was on Comedy Central, he would come and host. It was all these huge things, right?
Mhm.
And Thomas was like, I can't let this thing fall down. You know, why don't you start this business? You can start it part-time and just come and do this event and see if you're going to be built for this and see if it works.
Mhm.
So I started that business, which was when I was 26, with a partner. And we went on to do this event. And I went on to remember that this is where I felt most at home at that time, was being, on an event floor.
Mhm.
And there began my company. I mean, that was the start of it. So yeah, so there's a few people.
Yeah, you
And
bet.
then if I keep mapping that track to be, where we are today. So started the company with a partner. We a lot happened that just was, putting things in our favor. And I remembered what Charlie, my old client, had said to me, the one who used to take me to lunch. And he said, just keep putting yourself in front of people. So I did. Anybody I knew, I was like, great, can we have a meeting about nothing? I didn't know what the meeting would be about. So, but we built business. My business partner and I at the time built business.
Yeah.
And the next key turning point in growing that business happened when I got a call from another past client who had started her own event production agency. So same thing, it was fundraising events. She was a killer fundraiser, and so she still is a killer fundraiser and so amazing. She called me and she said, Carrie, I heard you started your own company. And I said, yeah, I did. And she said, well, I'd like to share this piece of business with you because I can't do it. Like, it's absolutely impossible. It's during a week when we already have 2 events, and I'd like to pass it on to you, but I need to know that you're ready. She was really stern kind of with me. Like, I
Okay.
need to know that you're ready, like that you're not going to screw this up. Because her
Sure.
reputation was now by extension
You
on the line.
bet. You bet.
She said, I think the world of you, but I need to know I know your business is new. Can you handle this? And
Mhm.
I said, Kathy, we can handle it. And she said, all right, go meet with the client. So I did. And that was it was a nonprofit benefit. It happened at the Beacon Theater. It was Donna Summer concert, which has Donna
Wow.
Summer and John Legend in
Okay.
concert as a benefit, with an after party at Nobu. Now, you heard me mention Nobu earlier. You already know that will play a role in my life later, but I didn't know that. In 2006, this was. So it was like we had just started the business 2 years in, and this happens. So This was this star-studded benefit hosted by Robert De Niro, featuring Donna Summer and John Legend and all of these people, right? And then we had a big after party at Nobu.
Okay.
Well, that ended up getting replicated at least four more times, both for that nonprofit and then again with when the De Niro's put their support behind a different nonprofit. So we
Okay.
kept doing these things where it was like star-studded concert, let's have a dinner at Nobu. Star-studded concert, let's have a dinner at Nobu. And we did it again and again. And it was, I mean, it was about 5 years, 5, 6 years
Okay.
of something like that. So a lot of events. And during that time, of course, I built a relationship with the De Niro's personally. I mean, it was a professional relationship where they knew they could count on me.
Mhm.
And they were like, "What else do you want to do?" And I said, "Oh, well, this is everything I want to do, right?" And I wanted to talk to Tribeca Film Festival. I said I really would like to work with Tribeca Film Festival. So they set up a meeting for me, and that didn't work. It was just, and it was one of those meetings where I was like, oh, I thought I wanted this, but this doesn't feel right, you know? I mean, it's such a brilliant happening and brilliant for film. And I was like, okay, that's not going to happen. Within some amount of time of that, I heard from the special events director at Nobu, who she and I had worked, in the trenches together on all of these events. She said, our 20th anniversary is coming up at Nobu, and I'd like to throw your hat in the ring to talk to the team. We need help. And I was like, okay. So there began what was, I think, like an 8-year run with Nobu to do all of these really exciting things with them. And we celebrated their 20th anniversary and then helped them grow and then helped them build an in-house marketing team so that they didn't need us anymore, which sounds like a bad business strategy, but it's actually what they needed. They were becoming a huge global brand and they needed an in-house team. So so I mean, trace all that. All of a
Yeah.
sudden now I had all this business,
Yeah.
And the other side of my business being PR and marketing and more of a full service marketing side to the business also had a track that started with a day one person.
Okay.
So Ray Van Manen, who was the VP at the first agency I worked at when I moved to New York, she was the vice president. She had moved into a client role. And then her client role grew. And she called me when I started my own agency, and she said, do you want to do PR for the New York Boat Show? And I was like, not really. I really didn't. I was like, I'm in these like sexy, exciting things. Like, I don't really want to do that. But I mean, I was thinking that, but I was like, of course I do. Yes, we'll do it. That turned into one of the other biggest business streams we have, which is
Ah,
recreational boating. We have
okay.
tons of recreational boating clients, and it's this niche business that's like a family. You know everybody in it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful industry to be a part of as well. So to trace all of that, I mean, there were many other people along the way that made it, happen, but that's the client I've worked with for 20 years is,
Wow.
the National Marine Manufacturers Association.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have all of this like comfort and excitement side by side throughout my career. Um, Comfort from the boating industry because it's just like people who sell boats for a living and they're like so happy. And then pressure and kind of, business and New York life and all of that thing from the other side of it that I also love. So it's been a really been a fun
Yeah.
ride.
What I was going to say, what a ride, what a journey and an
Yeah.
adventure this has been for you and,
Yeah.
and for everybody else involved in all of this.
Yeah, it's true. The everybody else is everybody who's worked with me along the way. I
Yeah.
mean, there was my first business partner, which that split up about 4 years into our partnership because she was another person who was like, I don't want to do this. I thought it was good, but I don't actually want it to be my life. I was like, fine. So then that was another turning point of growth because I hired people. I wasn't in
Okay.
this partnership place anymore. I hired people that I could both mentor and say, this is how I want it to happen. Let's go.
Mhm.
And that represented a huge growth moment, not just for me, but for the business as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, tons of people have worked with me over the years and really taught me a lot about what I didn't know about being a manager.
Yeah.
Like I am
Yeah.
very good at my work. I was not always very good at being a manager. I'm better now.
Okay.
I'm proud of
Okay.
myself. But I wasn't. I was like, we just have to do everything. So,
Yeah.
it's great. Yes, all of the people along the way have been amazing. And, if I bring us to a bit more of a current time, and I think about the moments or connections that are changing my life now, after I've had all of the success and I've also realized I don't want to do this same exact thing. I'm at another one of those turning points where I'm like,
Okay.
okay, great. well, I'm still not going to do this exactly the same way. I'm 48 years old. Like I have a lot more work and time left in me.
Mhm.
So what am I going to do now? And in 2021, I had the incredible fortune to go and do an event overseas in Venice, Italy,
Okay.
for a client that was a nonprofit organization, an amazing humanitarian organization. And they were like, we just want you to come. We already lined up all the media. You don't have to pitch or book the media. We have it booked.
Okay.
We want you to come here and manage our VIPs, our heads of state, all of our performers, and arrange interviews. So work with the media and the talent. Can you come and do that? Would you do something just, that it's just a small thing? I was like, yeah, and do my favorite thing and do it in Venice, Italy. Sure, I'll be right there.
Uh-huh.
So I went, and they didn't have money to have me bring anyone from my team. They said, we'll hire you a local assistant. They'll speak Italian. That will help you. Write us up a job description and we'll hire them for you. And I was like, I don't know if I like this, but I'll go. So I went, and that was a crack your life wide open moment and trip where a group, not one person, but a group of people that were reflecting what I was putting out showed me that I don't need to build a business in a traditional sense. I
Okay.
don't need to have a lot of employees. I don't need to have a certain amount of money coming in so that I'm a multi-million dollar agency. I don't need any of that.
Mhm.
I need to feel super psyched about what I'm doing every day. I
Amen.
want to be with people who inspire me and who work at a level where our energy combines into something brilliant.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden so that's 2021, fall of 2021, we're in 2026. But I can honestly tell you that from that moment to this moment, I have started more fully embodying not only my strengths, but my gifts and what I really want to do for the rest of my days when I go to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. And what a transformation that is, because I've been
Yeah.
through that myself and I know how awesome that is.
Everybody
And
has.
yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah,
have to admit that it's okay, that it's not, that what you built is not everything.
that's
Like
right.
you have to say, wow, I built this incredible thing, but it doesn't have to be everything, or it can shift a little bit and
Yeah,
give me something completely different.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, and what a testament this whole story is about to the power of right relationships, because look at all these examples that you shared of how just having the right relationship and just led to the next, to the next, to the next, and it just and continues to happen. It's all about right relationships.
It 100% is. And I think in order to have right relationships, I talk to people who find that really daunting. They're asking themselves, well, who am I supposed to know to get this done? What am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to know? And it's like, just connect.
Yeah.
Like connect with everyone. There's no reason not to extend a connective smile, word, handshake, idea, anything.
Yeah.
It's you have nothing to lose.
That's
And
right.
those things build and build and build into something that you just could never imagine.
Yeah. I got a kick out. You at one point said, you just talk to people and you're like, hey, want to have a meeting? I don't even know what we're gonna talk about. Well, let's just have a meeting. And I'm like, yeah, she's totally a connection. We're just gonna have a conversation, get to know each other. But that's how it happens.
It's true.
That's how you make connection. That's how you like find out, oh man, we really jive here. There's a lot of alignment here, or maybe there's not, and that's okay too.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's the spidey sense that took me longer to develop. Of course.
Okay.
I mean, I was young. You
Yeah.
have to like trust your gut and trust that feeling that's like, this doesn't feel right.
Yep. Yep.
And sometimes you go for it. I mean, sometimes you still go for it because it's meaningful in a different way. It's going to make you money or it's going to put you on the map or whatever. I mean, you make these
Yeah.
decisions for business. It's normal. But I think the connection and being willing to connect is just the first thing. And, people always called it fake it till you make it. I heard somebody recently say, weave it till you believe it, which I thought was a little bit gentler and for our time. But, it's like, I wasn't saying to the people, let's have a meeting. I don't know what it's going to be about. That's what I was feeling on the
Yeah.
inside. To them, I was
Totally.
coming up with some reason that we should meet
Yep.
and they should think about something.
Yep.
And that's what I mean about being in yourself and in the room. You can be in both.
Absolutely. 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 Well, for anyone that might be listening to this and thinking to themselves, wow, Kevin, I really love Carrie. I love who she is. I love how she shows up. I love her energy. And maybe they'd like to find out more about you and the work that you do. Any websites, any resources we can share with folks?
Yeah, my company website is CW and Co, which is a
Okay.
funky URL that ends up looking like C Wand Co. So don't think you're crazy when you type it in. I also just launched a personal website, Carrie Waible, which easily you can link back to things
Okay.
uh, that will help me kind of usher in the next chapter of the things that I have going on. So that's an easy way to find me,
That's
carriewable.com
perfect.
and then Carrie Waible on Instagram
Okay. Perfect.
or
I'll make sure
LinkedIn.
we
I guess all
include.
the things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is there any last thing that you feel led to share, Carrie, before we call it a wrap?
I just want to say thank you. I mean, it's really amazing that we got to have this conversation and to meet someone who feels as passionate about people and connections as I do. And
Yeah.
to like have it reflected because I think sometimes you can sit around and think, what do I think? Or what do I embody? Or what's my passion? Or what's my mission? Or what's this all day long? But until you see it reflected in a way that you can come alive, you may never know. And that's the beauty of connection and relationships and other people, and really allowing that reflection to shine back on you and say, oh, that was interesting. So thank you. I love that you're doing what you love and what you're so great at. It's fantastic.
Well, you are so welcome. And yeah, this has been absolutely great. I really appreciate you having the conversation. I appreciate you. And I'm just so excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thanks so much, Carrie.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll see you soon.
Yes.
Okay.